Study leave. You're presented with weeks of time to cover up to 12 exams, 12 different papers. How stressful is that? How do you break down exactly what you're going to study and when, and which ones you focus on and which ones you prioritize?
The main point of this video is that you need to do something strategic, but you also need to do something that you're going to follow up on. So that means that it's better to do something simple than something really smart and complex that you're not actually going to do down the line. And so when in doubt, always just start with the simple stuff and layer the complex stuff on later.
I'm Catherine.
And I'm Aidan.
Let's teach you how to break down your study leave.
Let's get into it. Efficient and effective study involves actually figuring out what topics we need to study in the first place.
We can do this by basically auditing our subjects. So looking at each subject and figuring out what topics go into each individual paper. We can have someone else do this for us by finding some checklists online. You can look at the achievement standards on the NZQA website, as well as the checklists we have on StudyTime.co.nz. But also your teacher most likely has split up each paper into different topics while they've been teaching it. You can start by just getting a checklist of every single subject you have, of every single paper you're going to be sitting. But how do we figure out which topics to study first?
When you're looking at your subject audit checklists, you can see how many hours something might take. You can kind of estimate that. And you also might want to think about how difficult to you or scary some particular topic is. And so what that means is you want to prioritize putting hours into those hard things.
You don't even have to think about how many hours you need to put into certain topics. I just like to take different colored highlighters and highlight what I think is super easy, green, what I think needs a bit of work, yellow, or what I think is low-key impossible, red. And then you can figure out how many bullet points do I have that are red, and are all of my red points in calculus? And maybe calculus is your 4th exam out of 5, but if it's the thing you find most difficult, you should really start by studying it earlier. That's why we're creating this little checklist and figuring out what actually needs the most work.
And those hard things, newsflash, are hard to do and hard to actually get started in. So an important thing to note is to think about strategies that make doing hard things less scary. And one of those things could be maybe treating yourself and going to a cafe and studying there, or finding a really nice environment, or buying lunch or dinner in order for you to have a really good day so you can study those easy things, and rewarding yourself.
You can also, this is like a way of sort of efficient procrastination, I suppose, or if you have done a certain amount of hard work, so let's continue with my calculus example. I've studied calculus for 2 hours today. I think I've done a really good job. I've gone and had lunch with a mate. I'm back at home, feeling excited. I don't really want to do calculus, but I've done a really good job, so I'm going to reward myself by studying, I don't know, my favorite subject, English, or something like that. And you can still study and have an effective study day, but sprinkle in the things you are actually good at and enjoy.
It's also important to note that doing the hard stuff early is really important too, because that's the kind of thing that you need to be able to remember much more easily, and in order to remember things, you need to do them for quite a long time. You need to space out different intervals of study, otherwise you're just going to forget quite difficult concepts that come in those more technical subjects.
Ultimately, make a checklist, break it down, decide what's easy, decide what's hard, figure out what you need to study first, and go from there.
And make sure to reward yourself along the way.
Now that we've prioritized what we actually need to do and how difficult we find each subject, we need to organize how and when we're going to study them. The best way to do this, in my opinion, is time blocking. Aidan, what is time blocking?
Well, time blocking, Catherine, is when you take a calendar and you allocate set blocks of your time in the future to certain tasks. And you're very specific about what tasks you're allocating to what specific amounts of time. And the reason that's useful is because of something called Parkinson's law. What's Parkinson's law, Catherine?
Parkinson's law is the idea that work will expand to fit the time it is given. So typically a paper in NCA is designed to take you an hour, but if I say, I'm going to give myself 2 hours to do a calculus past paper, let's say level 2 calculus standard, it will take me those 2 hours. I'll go on my phone a little bit, I'll have a phone call with my friends, I'll watch an episode of Netflix while I do some work, and it'll take that much longer because I have allotted 2 hours for it, whereas it could have taken me 1 hour.
Because, I mean, time blocking is a way to be some kind of like psycho CEO, some kind of hustler, grustler, grinder, but what it is for us is much more a way to just be really purposeful in the rest and leisure we're giving ourselves, but also really purposeful in the work and productive study that we are.
It also means you feel a lot less guilty about the time you do spend relaxing. If I say I'm going to do a calculus past paper from 10 to 11, then from 11 to 12 I will do a practice English essay. From 12 to 1 I'll have lunch, call a mate. From 1 to 3 I will do maybe a couple of unfamiliar papers for English, and then I will relax from 3 onwards. We've gotten 4 hours of study done in one day, and we still have time to see friends in the evening, we still have time to have lunch, and we still have time to read a book in the morning. Like, allotting specific amounts of time and actually achieving in that time will allow us to feel less stressed, less guilty, and actually enjoy our study leave as well.
Of course, the alternative is that you say, oh, tomorrow I'm going to do all this study, I'm going to do as much as possible, but I'm not going to plan anything. What you do is you end up so overwhelmed by the amount of work that's in front of you, you end up too scared to actually go ahead and actually do it. You feel guilty for procrastinating the whole day, and it just feels so unpurposeful.
Time blocking is all about actually just thinking about when to use your time and being purposeful in doing it. We want to actually schedule study, we want to schedule breaks, we want to schedule rest time and socialization, but we actually want to get work done in the time that we've allotted.
Study can be on its own quite boring and quite monotonous, and so it's important that you make it fun and energized and interesting to kind of spice it up a little and actually make you want to study in the first place.
This can keep your study looking sustainable, so you can actually keep studying over a couple of weeks leading up to your exams. And this could be done in a variety of ways depending on how you like to study. So like for me, I like to put similar subjects on one day. I would do physics and maths one day, and then I would do like English and media studies on another day, stuff like that. Or you could sort of break it up depending exactly what you like and what you want to do. Aidan mentioned earlier moving to a different environment, so maybe one day you go to the library, one day you stay at home, one day you go to like a coffee shop or something. Spicing up your environment and keeping it interesting for you as well.
Get a really nice playlist, maybe some smooth jazz or some lo-fi hip-hop, if that's what the kids do these days. So overall, study needs to be fun as well, and there are lots of ways for you to do that, changing your environment, changing what you're doing that day, putting subjects together, lots of things. Whatever floats your boat is going to make you an efficient, effective study.
Figure out what you like and keep your study sustainable.
So university exams are coming up, and I've got my calendar for what I'm doing in terms of time blocking for the next few days, as I've got an exam crunch time coming. So what you can see from my calendar here is I've got specific review sessions scheduled, quite a few of them, right, because I've procrastinated a fair bit, but I've got specific review sessions scheduled that have specific tasks associated with them, which means I'm going to follow that task and take the allotted amount of time that I've given. I've also been realistic and given myself some times where I can relax or go do things that aren't studying, like going and getting coffee or just chilling or simmering down, as I've said here. And I've also allotted things that other things that I'm doing, like work or meeting people. Overall, what we can learn from this is that it's important to vary your study each day. You might want to do a couple subjects each day, maybe no more than say 3 or 4, just to make sure you're not overloading yourself with different tasks. But making sure you're not sick of subjects is really important. But also making sure that you do all the study you need to do the day before the exam. You're not actually doing any study then. You're not doing any panic study in the evening, and you're making sure that you're reviewing your exam content well before the exam.
We We hope you learnt something in this video and you now have a really good idea of how to structure your study leave and how to study the most effectively to achieve your goals.
Good luck for your exams. You're going to smash it, but only if you follow these tips to the T.
You're going to do fantastic. We'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.